What's something that the Game of Life and Monopoly have in common? They both represent our terrible economy and the never-ending search for true happiness. And they're both party games! Party games are games that you play at, what else? A party! They're meant as a medium for interaction between a large group of people, learning about each other, making others laugh, although it almost always devolves into you. Games like Monopoly and the Game of Life are the most commonly played party games since they're simple board games that anybody can play. But if you want something that'll get you kicked out of the party, there's always party video games. You don't usually see these played at actual parties. You just kind of agree to meet up and play them. Probably because it goes from you to
hell no.
You'll notice that a lot of them are the same. Someone rolls a dice and moves the amount of spaces it gives them, and once they've used all their moves, whatever space they land on will activate an effect. Every few turns, a minigame plays out where everyone has to compete to win prizes. Most party games use this exact formula with few changes. And that's because the first truly successful game in this genre perfected the formula on the first attempt. This one game introduced all of the key components that would make up party games for the next 2 decades. And that game was, of course, most consoles before the 5th generation had 2 controller ports, which only let games have up to 2 players. But when the N64 released with 4 controller slots, developers began putting more emphasis on multiplayer. Games like Mario Kart and Smash Bros could be far more chaotic with 4 players competing or helping each other. But these games were aimed at people who were already familiar with gaming. With 4 players support, you could aim for a wider audience. While Mario Kart and Smash Bros are simple games, people who have never held a controller before might have a hard time playing them, making it difficult for, say, a family to play them. So Nintendo partnered up with Hudson Soft and created Mario Party, a more traditional type of game that used board game elements as its mechanics. The game initially released in Japan in 1998, and afterwards it released in the US and Europe in 1999. Mario Party has 2 main phases, the board phase and the minigame phase. In the board phase, you roll a dice, move the amount of spaces you roll, and then interact with whatever space you land on. There's a few different spaces with unique effects. You'll get extra coins on a blue space and lose them on a red space. You can land on a chance space to play chance time, or land on an event space, which can activate a variety of different hazards which can help or inconvenience you and the other players. You can also pass by a boo, which allows you to steal coins and stars from your opponents. Coins allow you to buy stars, which you need to have the most of to win the game. Finally, there's the Bowser spaces, which cause a variety of bad things to happen, like Bowser stealing your coins, or Bowser Revolution, where Bowser becomes a communist and equals out everyone's coin total. Once everyone has their turn on the board, it's time for a minigame, a bite-sized competition where everyone has to compete to get ahead. There's 3 kinds of minigames which will randomly be chosen: free-for-alls, 2 vs 2s, and 3 vs 1s. Free-for-alls are all-out battles where you need to be the last one standing or the first person to reach the finish line to win. 2 vs 2s are all about teamwork. You and your partner have to work together to compete against the rival duo. Likewise, in 3 vs 1s, the players get divided into a team of 3 and a solo player. They'll both have opposing goals. While the trio might need to eliminate the solo player, the single player might need to reach a finish line or press a button before... There's quite the variety of minigames between each category, although Free-for-all has the most by far, having 24 minigames, while 3 vs 1 has 10, and 2 vs 2 only has 5. On top of that, these star spaces will make you play a solo minigame. These give you huge coin prizes if you play them right. Overall, the minigames are fun, but some of these aren't that great. A lot of minigames in this entry come down to rotate the joystick, mash buttons, or just get lucky. The solo minigames are even easier. Most involve simply hitting a button at the right time or memorizing a pattern. There's also a massive balancing issue in the 3 vs 1 minigames. Depending on which minigame is chosen, it's either you lose or you lose. In some minigames, the 3 players can't lose because only the solo player can drop their coins like in Bash and Cash. The same goes for the solo player in something like Bowl Over. The best minigames are usually the ones where every player is competing against each other. For example, Coin Block Bash is a 3 vs 1 minigame where everyone needs to break the floating blocks to get the most coins. Here's the catch. One of the players has a hammer which will destroy the blocks in one swing. You can choose to focus on the blocks, or you can try to steal the hammer to get the advantage over everyone else. It's more fair this way because one player does have an advantage, but anyone can take that away from them. Moving on to the boards, the maps in this entry are pretty simple compared to what came after. While they do have nice themes and cool events, the actual layout of the boards is super simplistic. A majority of them are just tiny circles you go around with some split pathways for variety, although every board has a different way to obtain its stars. Donkey Kong's Jungle Adventure is a conventional board where the star can spawn anywhere. Watch out for rolling rocks. The star space in Peach's birthday cake is always in the center, but there's a chance you'll end up on Bowser's cake, where you'll lose a lot of coins. Also, if you have 30 coins, you can plant a seed that steals 1 star from whoever lands on it. Yoshi's Tropical Island has 2 alternating star spots that change whenever someone lands on an event space. Wario's Battle Canyon is... The star in Luigi's Engine Room can spawn just about anywhere, but each of its paths have gates that regularly switch on and off. Mario's Rainbow Castle is a straight shot to the end. If Toad's there, you get a star, but if Bowser's there, you'll lose coins instead. In Bowser's Magma Mountain, the star can spawn anywhere, but your way to the star is determined by luck. And watch out, if you get sent on the wrong path, Bowser might be able to steal one of your stars. And finally, Eternal Star. There's 7 stars to obtain all across the board, and you get to them by using these teleporters all over the map. That's only the half of it. When you finally get to the star, you need to face off against the Koopa Kid and roll a higher number than him to even get it. And that really highlights what this game is all about. Even if you're an amazing strategist or really good at the minigames, the true deciding factor of who wins Mario Party has always been... luck has always been the biggest factor in the series. No matter how good or bad you are, that element of luck will always be there. It truly is the great equalizer. Certain board elements rely purely on chance, like the split paths in Bowser's Magma Mountain. Even the way you move, the dice block, is determined by luck. And of course, who could forget?
Chance time!
I mean, it's in the Bible. 2 people are randomly chosen to give, take, or exchange either coins or stars. It's complete chance who gets chosen and what they'll give. This can completely switch the tides of a game. If someone with no stars gets to exchange with someone who has a lot, the game is suddenly in their favor just like that. But don't get me wrong, the game's balance is not purely on luck. That's what makes the game so enjoyable. The players do have agency. It's your choice what path you'll go down and what's the best way to get to the star. Luck simply adds an element of chaos to make the game unpredictable. After the success of Mario Party, sequels were soon to follow. Mario Party 2 released only a year later, with 3 following in suit. Mario Party 2 was more of an upgraded Mario Party 1 since it reuses a lot of its minigames and other elements, while 3 is a true successor that brings all new minigames, gimmicks, and 2 new characters. 4 basically just brought the games to a new system, while 5 added a strategic capsule mechanic and added verticality to the boards. After that came 6, 7, and 8. Mario Party 6 introduced the day and night mechanic, where the board and the minigames are affected by whether it's day or night. It's also the best one. No room for argument, it's fact. 7's gimmick is that to control some of the minigames and events, you have to use a microphone. Because using a controller is too hard. Finally, Mario Party 8 was the first entry on the Wii. At this point, the series was getting a bit stale, which makes sense. They released 8 games in the span of 10 years. In this moment, the sensible choice would have been adding new overarching mechanics on top of the existing gameplay to keep the series fresh. Or you could change the foundation of the game to make something entirely different. But that could make the series lose its core identity and what makes it so fun to begin with, so it's a good thing they never did that. It seems obvious that a party game should have fun gameplay, but not every game seems to do it right. After the success of Mario Party, dozens of copycats followed. Other companies tried using their IPs to create Mario Party clones without understanding what makes those games special. You know, a personality, fun, Donkey Kong. Have you ever had M&Ms and water? Well, it's about as enjoyable as M&M's Beach Party. Released in 2009, this game was developed by Digital Embryo and published by Zoo, a developer and publisher responsible for a cavalcade of shovelware games on a variety of systems. And it shows. When you boot up the game, you start out in a giant, empty beach environment. After all, what's a beach party without a beach?
I don't know.
The beach is a sandbox environment where you can walk around with your M&M and select a minigame to play. What's odd is that there's no characters to speak to or really anything to do here, so there's no reason to have a hub world in the first place. I don't see why they couldn't just have a basic menu instead, since all you do in this game is play minigames. And what a selection! There's kayaking, volleyball, shooting range, ring toss, skee ball, and everyone's favorite beach sport, Mr. Runch Slam. There's no additional minigames to unlock either. The only extra content this game has are cosmetics. And unlike Mario Party, where every aspect is wacky and vibrant, this game is dull and boring. All of the minigames are basic sports and carnival games with no special twists or anything, which isn't good for a minigame collection. If a party game doesn't have good gameplay or a fun atmosphere, why bother even bringing it to a party? And what does everyone love about party games? The boards? The minigames? No! Everyone loves to watch loading screens! When you do anything in this game, a silent loading screen will pop up that takes forever to end. This is great for parties. Everyone can talk and socialize while the game starts. Okay, so maybe M&Ms aren't that great of a thing to base a game on. But what about games with good IPs? In 2002, after Nintendo had already released 3 entries in the Mario Party series, Namco decided to give the party game genre a shot with Pac-Man Fever, released on the 3rd of September of that same year. Pac-Man Fever is a crossover between multiple Namco franchises. You've got Pac-Man, of course, but also Ridge Racer, Soul Calibur, and Tekken. So what's the difference between this and Mario Party?
It's worse.
Right off the bat, the presentation. Why has every character been turned into a bobblehead? The fighting game characters are supposed to be cool and menacing, and they just look completely ridiculous in this game. Especially on the title screen where everyone is dancing. The plot is that the ghosts have stolen the trophy for the Namco All-Star Brawl and have taken it into the studio theater. To get inside, you need a VIP ticket, and for some reason, the stars of the show can't get in without one to get the trophy back. Instead of playing on a giant board that loops around, you go on a straight road to the end. It's a race to the finish. Your placement in the minigames decides how many spaces you can move. It's pretty much necessary to have the movement work this way for a game like this, which is fine, but you move extremely slowly. Way slower than Mario Party. So if you make a really big move, get ready to file your taxes, cause we're gonna be here a while. Regardless, a system like this could work to make a slightly more skill-based party game, since you need to do well in the minigames to proceed. I just wish they were fun to play. There's potential for some really unique minigames in something like this. And what did we get? Darts, soccer, hockey, and 5 versions of Hungry Hungry Hippos. Even worse, the minigames are tied to the board you're playing, and since there's a pathetic amount to begin with, you'll be repeating minigames by turn 5. Speaking of the boards, there's only 3 of them. That is a minuscule amount compared to most Mario Party games. But hey, maybe the boards are really interesting with lots of cool mechanics. They all have generic theming with no extra gimmicks. The boards are tropical, space, and medieval. Literally some of the most generic settings of all time. This is a Namco party game that takes place in a movie studio. Have some creativity, please! What if there was a board based on a Pac-Man maze, and instead of going in a straight line, you go all around the board instead? Then you could add power pellets as an item where collecting them lets you hurt other players by passing through them. And because it's a movie set, you could have fake ghosts hanging from strings and spotlights everywhere. Oh, or what about a Tekken stage where a bunch of characters are practicing for fight scenes in the background while playing through a kind of dojo setting. This would also provide an opportunity to have different music because wow is it mediocre. Almost every track in this game is a remix of the original Pac-Man theme, and a bad one at that. Hearing that same theme in every song gets irritating in no time. While we're at it, how about some better minigames too? Instead of a normal kart race, how about a minigame themed around Ridge Racer or another of Namco's racing franchises? And what if there was a minigame where the players are trapped in a Pac-Man maze and need to get out without being stopped by the ghosts? Or you could have a 1 versus 1 battle that plays like a Tekken or Soul Calibur fight. There are a lot of ways they could have made this game a fun experience, but all they wanted was a game that cashed in on Mario Party's success. While the game was published by Namco, a studio named Mass Media Games developed it, which explains the lack of Namco representation, I guess. But this developer had worked on other Namco games and collections in the past, so they had at least some knowledge of their properties. What made Mario Party special is that it takes advantage of the franchise it's a part of. The boards, the characters, the minigames, they couldn't be done with any other series. Mario is an essential part of Mario Party. Pac-Man Fever does not require Pac-Man or Namco. At least the game tried to be different than Mario Party, and maybe Namco learned from their mistakes and made a better party game in the future. Okay, I was going to talk about a game called My Street, but so far, these games haven't been all that great. I understand why Eminem's Beach Party is bad. The game was shovelware developed by a no-name studio. But Pac-Man Fever was made by a huge developer, which leaves me wondering, what is it about Mario Party that no one else can replicate? Is Mario what makes Mario Party so special, or is it something else? Let's find out by taking a look at another party game by Nintendo, Wii Party. Wii Party was the 8th entry in the extremely successful Wii series, including Wii Sports, Wii Play, and many more. Developed by ND Cube, a subdivision of Nintendo, the game is a collection of modes all tied together with Mario Party-styled minigames. The minigames aren't exact copies. While they are similar, they do have their own style, which is more like the other games in the Wii series. A couple of things in this game require motion controls, which might sound like a headache, but Nintendo knew exactly what the Wiimote was capable of, so the motion controls actually work great. Moving on to the game as a whole, we still don't know who we're playing as, do we? Well, it's you. This game uses Miis, avatars which let you make yourself, friends, family, or random people and then put them in games that support it. You can be a part of the game. That's pretty cool. And that's not all. The presentation here, especially for a game centered around avatars, is really good. The menus are nice and snappy while still having personality, and the art style is really charming, being minimalistic but not boring. The sound? Amazing. The song you're hearing right now is from the game's main menu. Onto the mode selection. I will say, having all of these options laid out on a single screen like this can be a bit overwhelming. There's so much to choose from, I don't really know what to pick. Let's just choose the first mode, Board Island. This mode is the closest to Mario Party, while still being different. It's more like Pac-Man Fever, to be honest. Every turn begins with a minigame, and depending on your placement, you'll get special dice that will add to your roll during that turn. You need to get big rolls, because just like Pac-Man Fever, the board's layout is a straight path, and whoever reaches the end first wins. But, unlike Pac-Man Fever, the board actually has unique gimmicks. And yes, that's board. Singular. Unfortunately, since this game is more focused on having a variety of modes, there's only a single board, which I think actually pays off, but we'll get to that. There's a lot of cool events here. You can get launched by a golem, fall into a volcano, get chased by a dinosaur, ride a tornado, and so much more. Across the map, you'll find gates that won't let you keep going unless you get a dice roll that's higher than the amount displayed. This lets players lagging behind catch up, keeping the game balanced for everyone. Once you get to the final space, you have to roll a 6 or higher. And when somebody does, they reach the treasure and become the winner. Board Island is definitely the easiest mode to jump into and have fun with. It only goes on for half an hour, has a lot of wacky events, and is overall really fun. It's the most extensive mode out of the collection, but you shouldn't sleep on the other modes either. Let's switch things up and talk about Swap Meet. Line up 2 rows of the same colored Miis to score points. First, you have to play a minigame to decide what order you'll be getting Miis in. Once that's over with, 4 Miis will pop up in the center. When it's your turn, you have to select one of them and add them to one of your rows. You've got regular Miis, which come in one of 6 colors, wild Miis, which let you pick their color, trade Miis, which let you take someone else's, clear Miis, which let you eliminate a row and replace it with another, and random Miis, which only reveal what type they are once you pick them. You win by having the most points by the final round. You also get extra points if you line up certain types of Miis, like silver-colored Miis or Miis of the same gender. This adds more strategy. You can sacrifice an already made row of Miis to get a higher value one, and even if there aren't any Miis you want, you can still take away someone else's.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next on the Wheel of Fortune is Spin-Off! And now, here's your host, Zeki.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Spin-Off. Before we get into the game, I'm gonna have to explain the rules. You spin a roulette, and whatever space it lands on will either affect the bank or the players. The bank holds the medals that the players win by landing on plus medal spaces, or by winning a minigame, you can get all the medals in the bank at a time. However, the bank will only have as many medals as the players give it by landing on plus bank spaces. I think Spin-Off is amazing for a casual play session. You don't have to think about what you're doing all that much since the game is mostly luck-based, but it's still engaging. It's fun to spin the wheel by swinging your controller and just seeing what you land on. And I love the presentation and the sound design for this mode. The jazz soundtrack and the game show vibe really gets you in the mood to spin. Watch out! We're halfway done now, so it's time to add a dash of chaos to spice things up here. From now on, the wheel will have spaces that have your medals, more medal loss and minigame spaces, and a lucky space that can give you half or all of the medals in the bank, but you can just as easily get nothing. Because you can win and lose a crazy amount of medals all at once, anyone can catch up no matter how far behind they are. As the game progresses, the tension ramps up because it really is anybody's game until the very end. How long have we been recording? Welcome back, folks. The game's almost done, but now we're going into overtime! This is the only gripe I have with Spin-Off. The game keeps going for 10 extra turns unless the bank is fully empty. And since there's only a few minigame spaces here, it's not easy to finish, and it ends up making the game last way too long. Despite that, if you want a fun, simple mode where anybody can win, this one's for you. Our letters for today's lottery are B-I-N-G-O, bingo. You'd hope a game like this would have a wackier version of bingo, where all the players have to scramble to fill out their cards, but unfortunately, this is just plain old bingo. The machine in the back here will spit out a ball with a Mii's face on it, and if that face is on your card, you mark it and move on with the next crank. Winning a minigame in this mode lets you mark any Mii on your card. That's it. Nothing else you can do to compete, just total luck. But isn't Spin-Off complete luck too? The thing about Spin-Off is that while it lacks player agency, the presentation, variety of events, and overall competitiveness still makes it fun despite there not being a lot of control. Bingo isn't offensively bad or anything, but the fact that it's almost interchangeable with real bingo leaves me with no reason to come back to it. Now, let's fly on over to Globetrot. The players need to go all across the world to reach the available countries and take pictures there. It sounds like a cool idea. You get to travel across the actual Earth, going from country to country and taking a unique picture in each one. You move by choosing cards instead of rolling a dice. And these cards are randomly shuffled, so it's basically the same as rolling a dice, but slower. And of course, half of the cards are 2s and 3s, which is a problem because the map is huge. The movement is so slow, I feel like I'm never making any real progress towards my goal. And it's only made worse by the amount of event spaces. There's an event where you have to switch places with somebody else. So every 3 turns, you're stuck retracing your steps because you got sent back to the beginning. Every little thing in this game goes on forever. No matter what effect you activate, there's always a roulette which spins for 10 seconds, which gets annoying when every space has an effect. You can also buy cards at the shop space that don't get shuffled and also let you move a larger amount than normal cards, which doesn't even matter because you can just buy a Super Mii card that moves you directly to a photo spot. And on top of everything else, the slow pacing, the terrible movement speed, the cards, this game also has an overtime mode. So you spend all this time retracing your steps, moving slowly, spinning roulettes, hoping it will finally end. And then the game just decides that you haven't wasted enough time playing it yet. This is awful. If you ever get the chance to play Wii Party with some friends, do not, I repeat, do not play this mode. I got a bit negative there, but Wii Party has a few more great modes to round out the experience. Our next category is house party games. These need 2 to 3 people to play, but don't necessarily require multiple controllers. Watch out, it's Time Bomb. It's a simple mode. The Wii Remote is a bomb, and the person holding it needs to pass it to the next player while trying their best not to shake the controller too much. Otherwise... Once both players have their hands on the remote, the first player lets go of their button and the second player holds a different one. As the rounds go on, the sensitivity of the bomb gets higher, letting you shake the controller less and less. It's a high score based mode, so you all need to work together to make sure the game goes on as long as possible. This is really fun. You can't shake the controller too much right from the get-go, but as the game keeps going, there's almost no room for error, which can be really difficult to manage due to the stress. And to make sure you can't be too careful, the bomb will count down, so you better pass it fast. This is a great party mode. You can just gather a friend or 3, sit down, and have some fun. We also have Word Bomb. Same concept as Time Bomb, but instead of holding a button and passing, you say a word in whatever category the game chooses. Once you have the controller, say a word that no one has mentioned yet and pass it. Whoever receives the Wiimote can give it back if the word you said doesn't work, but if it does, they say another word and pass it as well. Once you run out of commonly used words, the game gets really hectic, with a shorter time limit forcing you to scramble and find any words that could possibly fit. The goal is to keep playing as long as possible, but I find it a little more fun to play for survival. Whoever doesn't get a word in before the bomb explodes is the loser. That's the fun of these modes. You can sort of play any way you want to. The gameplay itself is open-ended. The only rules in place are there to make sure the game flows properly. Something that's really apparent in hide and go seek. In hide and hunt, you don't hide in game. No. Instead, you'll be hiding the Wiimote somewhere in your real life room. This is a really cool concept. Obviously, you'll need to set ground rules for where and where not to hide the controllers, but this is a really fun idea and the execution is great too. About every 10 seconds, the Wiimote will make a sound, forcing you to hide it in a really clever spot if you don't want it getting found. Games like this that interact with the real world in such an intuitive way are amazing for a party setting. There's actually another mode which does something pretty similar with the Wiimotes. Animal Tracker. I couldn't actually play this one. This mode uses the Wii Remote's speaker, and mine doesn't work. Basically, a few animals show up, with one standing in front. They all make sounds that come out of the controller, and you have to pick up the one playing the correct sound before anyone else can. I can see something like this working for a quiz game. Maybe the answers get shown on the TV, and each answer corresponds to a Wiimote. But Wii Party already has a quiz mode, so let's move on to... That's right! Buddy Quiz. One player gets chosen to be the buddy. The selected buddy won't be able to participate in the game, but will be asked questions like what their favorite kind of pet is, or what's their favorite kind of food. The other players have to guess what the buddy will choose to get points. Whoever has the most points by the end is crowned the best buddy. This is really good to play with close friends or with acquaintances. It's a good way to know someone just a little better. I do wish the buddy changed every round, since it would give everyone a chance to answer some questions. All you need to do is add a few more rounds, but I like it. House party's done, so let's move on to the next and final category. This category is made for 2 players only, pair games. First up, Matchup. This one, while taking place in a similar setting to Swap Meet and also being about pairing up Miis, is more of a memory game. One person gets to select 2 Miis whose shirt colors are only revealed once you pick them. If they have the same colored shirt, you get points and get to choose again. If you get it wrong, you lose a heart, and if you lose them all, the other player gets to choose their Miis. Every few rounds, both of you get put into a 1 versus 1 minigame, and whoever wins gets an extra heart. I don't have much to say about this one. It's a fun mode to play with someone, but it's not really what I think of when hearing pair game. It doesn't have to be one-on-one. I could easily see this working with 4 players. All you'd have to do is add more Miis. Well, time to set sail for Balance Boat. Now this is a pair game. You and your partner both get a Mii with one of 3 colors corresponding to each tier of the boat's mast. Instead of competing in the minigames, you work together to win. By winning, you get 2 Miis of the same weight, but if you lose, you'll get 1 big Mii and 1 small Mii. Your job is to place the Miis on the ship and keep it balanced for 10 rounds. In total, 20 Miis. I love this one. It's my favorite out of all the modes this game has to offer. The minigames get really tricky if you don't work with your partner, so there's definitely no way either of you can slack off. And once you've been playing for a while, seeing the ship nearly tip over is so stressful. There's 3 difficulty options which don't just make the game harder, but also change the visuals and music. And if you found all that too easy, you can unlock a time attack mode which just rapidly fires Miis at you until you've placed 20 of them. This one is even more fun since you can quickly place Miis to save the ship, but you can make things even worse for yourself in the future. Balance Boat really puts your teamwork and coordination to the test. If you only have one wrong person to play with, definitely try out this mode. We can see how well you work together in Balance Boat, but let's find out how like-minded you are with Friend Connection. Like Buddy Quiz, you'll both be asked 5 questions. Press a direction on the Wiimote to choose your answer. After answering all 5 questions, a pair minigame will begin, and depending on if you win or not, you'll get a few extra points. For every answer you both share, you'll get a few points, and the minigame at the end adds a few on top of that. There's over 40 kinds of friendship ranks the game can give you. As you can tell, this one doesn't have much of an end goal, being more of a novelty than anything. I mean, you wouldn't stop being friends with someone over a low score, right? It's probably the least replayable mode, considering there's less than 20 questions and there isn't much of a reason to play it with the same person more than once. At a party, it could definitely be a quick icebreaker, although a modified version of Buddy Quiz could do that a lot better in my opinion. And we're finally done with every mode that Wii Party has to offer. Something I believe deserves praise is the fact that, aside from 1 or 2 exceptions, none of these modes feel half-baked. Every single one has a completely different playstyle that still retains the party game formula that makes the genre fun. Games where anybody can win, but your choices and skill still make a difference. And the whole playing as yourself thing can make it a little more approachable for casual audiences. Mario can get a bit too wacky for some folks to enjoy. That was the whole selling point of the Wii franchise. Games that are accessible to everyone. So yeah, party games. What a strange world. You've got the highs of Mario Party, and then the lows of just about everything else. But honestly, even when a party game is bad, it can still have some merit. I mean, what's better than sitting down with a couple of friends and making fun of a terrible game? But when it comes to an actual party, you probably want to play something that's actually fun. These games can be played alone, some even have special single-player content, but I can't really recommend you do that. Nothing will ever match the experience of just sitting down with people in the same room and just having a blast. That's what I love about party games. They bring people together to just have fun. On the other hand, this is me before Mario Party, and this is me after. Don't make the same mistake. Goodbye.